Oh, yeah.
Is it recording? I'm trying. Oh,
Good job. I think
Oh
we're going
my.
to get ready to start.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay. 1 minute and we will begin.
Slowly down here.
Shalom, everybody. Baruchim Habaim, and welcome to all. My name is Marla Goldberg, and I'm honored to be serving on the Women of Reform Judaism Executive Committee. In that role, I have joyfully accepted the chairmanship of the Israel Education and Advocacy Committee, and I work under and with the very capable Vice President, Julia Weinstein. In addition, I have a most wonderful committee, including the wonderful WRJ Israel champion, Risa Davids. It is in the company of these fantastic women that we have made the vision of our modern and contemporary Jewish holidays, moving from remembrance into celebration panel via Zoom meeting call happen. So with this as our opener, I'm inviting all who are present on this call to join in the singing of Hatikvah, Israel's national anthem.
Greetings, my name is Julia Weinstein. I just want to mention that Israel's national anthem was written in 1886, and isn't it amazing how that song still tugs at our hearts and resonates with us today? Next slide, Marla. Okay. I am going to explain a little bit about the logistics that'll make our day go more smoothly. And the first point I'd like to make would be to ask everybody who is not a presenter to mute yourselves. The mute button can be found at the lower left of your screen. And our Marla, as our host, may also be muting us and unmuting us as necessary. But if you can find the mute button on your lower left of your screen and click mute, then we will get rid of a lot of the background sounds that we can all hear. Also, if you need to step away, you can mute your video as well. The other tip I would like to make would be to hold your questions until the end. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. And for our questions, I would like you all to post your questions in the chat box. I see some of you have already seen where the chat box is. It should be at the lower bottom edge of your screen, and there's an icon that says chat. If you click on that, you will see a chat box open up, and you can select whether to chat privately with somebody in the lower right of your screen or to chat to everybody. Chat to ask your questions at the end. Include them in the chat box as they come up, and I will make notes, and at the end we will have Q&A. So now, thank you very much, and everybody please mute if you can, and then we will continue. Thank you very much. So Marla, I think you're going to introduce our speakers. Over to you.
Thank you. It's Marla again. Thank you for helping us with the logistics, Julia, and everything else you have done to make this happen. It is my privilege to introduce to you some wonderful people we'll be hearing from. And the first, we go alphabetical. It's just the way we do it. I would like you to meet, and you will hear from Cantor Anise M. Benami. She's the first vice president of the Women of Reform Judaism's Atlantic District and also serves on the WRJ board. She is a very enthusiastic and passionate advocate for women's equality in Israel and is a member of the Women of the Wall Speakers Bureau. She currently serves as a part-time cantor at the Reform Temple of Putnam Valley in Putnam Valley, New York, and also teaches full-time kindergarten through 8th grade music education in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Cantor Benami is the proud mother of Alana Shear, registrar for Nifty Israel at the Union for Reform Judaism. We also have Madeline. I'm sorry, I'm jumping. We have Sharona Butarno. Naro, I didn't ask her, I'm sorry. She's 45 years old and was born and raised in Bat Yam, a small city near Tel Aviv, Israel. Her mother came to Israel from Romania, and her late father was from Poland. She's married with 2 sons, ages 21 and 16. And Sharona received her BA in Arts and Social Studies, especially in cinema and literature, and now she's a master's student in cultural studies, and during the day she works as a system administrator in a large patent attorney's office in Tel Aviv. In addition, she's the chairperson of Birkat Shalom congregation in Kibbutz Kezer and also one of the founders and chairperson of the New Egalitarian Minyan in Bat Yam. We also have with us today Madeline Rosen Solomon, who serves on her sisterhood board at Temple Israel of Northern Westchester in Croton on the Hudson, New York. She sits on the Educators Planning Committee of the Holocaust and Human Rights Education Center. She's a certified Holocaust educator and a high school English and history teacher. She's currently working on a book about the American Jews and the Holocaust. Finally, we have Rabbi Ayala Ronan Samuel, who was born and raised on Kibbutz Shamir in the Upper Galilee, who has the benefit of a Zionist education that sanctifies the search for inner truth, social action, and tikkun olam, which are values that continue to serve as her moral compass. Ayala graduated from Haifa University with a BA in Jewish thought and psychology with a teaching certificate, and then completed her PhD in Jewish education at the JTS Jewish Theological Seminary in New York. She has experience with both formal and informal Jewish education, leading Rosh Chodesh women's groups conversion preparation. Her experience includes educational leadership training and curriculum development programs, and Ayala was ordained at our very own HUC Jerusalem, so Hebrew Union College, and went on to initiate, found, and is now a leading Reform congregation in Caesarea, Tefillat HaAdam. Here, she dreams to see a strong and stable liberal community with families who celebrate life cycle events, festivals, and Shabbat, thereby familiarizing residents with a pluralistic community and a dialogue-based Judaism. My dear friend and Vice President Julia Weinstein serves on the WRJ board as a Vice President of Membership and Communications. She's a member of University Synagogue Sisterhood in LA, Los Angeles, California. And I am Marla Goldberg. As I mentioned, my portfolio on the WRJ Board of Directors on the Executive Committee is Israel Advocacy and Education. I served as the WRJ Midwest District President from 2010 till 12, and I believe that successful leaders lead by example. I'm a board of trustee at my home congregation, which is BJBE in Deerfield, Illinois, and I now work 3 years for Union for Reform Judaism in my role as URJ Communities Manager, thanks to my leadership development through WRJ. That being said, I would like to please turn this over for our first holiday to Madeline.
Thanks, Marla. Good afternoon and evening for the people in Israel, and thanks for the invite. You cannot believe just how much I've learned, even though I thought I knew a lot, in prepping for this part, and I'm just thrilled to share it with you. We'll start with the Hebrew words, which translated to English for Yom HaShoah as Holocaust and Heroism Remembrance Day. Yom HaShoah always falls out on the 27th of Nisan, which usually occurs in April, okay? So the holiday is timed for the week whenever Passover has ended that year, right after Passover, and generally marks the anniversary of the beginning of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, okay? And the Israeli Knesset actually established the holiday in 1953, okay? And it was decades later that Israel would sponsor the UN General Assembly resolution, okay, which had the entire world, the entire international community of nations, chosen for its significance, and they picked another day, okay? That was the day that Auschwitz-Birkenau, the death camp, was liberated, okay? And 2005, when this was passed as International Holocaust Day, marked the 60th anniversary of Auschwitz's liberation. And why 2 separate days to commemorate the Holocaust? That's a story for a whole nother time. What's important here is to understand the word Shoah, okay? It's a special Hebrew word, and it means calamity or catastrophe, okay? It's taken from the Greek, okay? It has to do with a burnt sacrificial offering. And the Israeli newspaper Haaretz notes that the word Shoah appears in the Bible more than a dozen times, okay? Always signifying a complete and utter destruction, okay? And much like the actual event itself, the words that describe this genocide and holiday are filled with controversy and contradiction. So context is really important, especially when one is dealing with a holiday like this that is just fraught with human emotion, right? And grief. And the magnitude and uniqueness of this catastrophic event in Jewish history transcends the meaning of the words and really almost defies understanding. It doesn't do justice. Now, the Yiddish word for the Holocaust is charbun, coming from a Hebrew word that also refers to the destruction, specifically, though, of the ancient temples in Jerusalem. And this was a word originally used by the survivors themselves. Remember, Yiddish was the major language for Jews in Europe, okay? And the survivors would often refer to their own ordeals as der letzte Churban, or the most recent destruction, okay? And American historian Walter LaCour, whose parents died in the Shoah and has written extensively on the Holocaust, described that actually Shoah is a singularly inappropriate term for the genocide of the Jews, since it implies a burnt offering to God. And he notes it was not the intention of the Nazis to make a sacrifice of this kind, and nor was it the position of the Jews that they be a ritual victim, obviously. French filmmaker Claude Lanzmann, who's very known for Shoah, the film, right, which he directed and produced, has noted that the word Shoah, which the rabbis in Israel named the holiday, is improper since it calls the genocide the catastrophe. But, as he notes, how do you give a proper name to something which is so unnameable, unimaginable, unspeakable, right? It's hard to wrap your mind around this in particular. So now, no one in Europe really uses Holocaust anymore. It's still used in America, in Canada. Okay, I know this word is used in English, but Holocaust has a very sacrificial overtone. Landsman says that he finds it unbearable. Who is the God who could have demanded such a sacrifice? 1.5 million kids were killed. Were they lambs? That's Landsman, always controversial, right? But now that I've given you some background on it, I suppose a lot of you may be wondering just how Yom HaShoah is celebrated in Israel. Sharona, you want to take over and tell us?
Okay, thank you, Madeline. You can hear me?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I can. Okay. This is the next slide. Well, in Israel, they first named the Yom HaShoah as Yom HaShoah and Ghetto Rebellion. And in 1959, there was a new approach towards survivors, and they changed the name to Yom HaShoah ve'Hagvura. And the reason that they joined ve'Hagvura, you all know the term Gibor. You know the name Gibor from the second paragraph of Tfilat Amidah, Ata Gibor Leolam Adonai, and also from the song Mi Yamalel Gvurot Israel, the Hanukkah song. Well, Gvura is hero or heroism, but it's also powers. And the new approach towards survivors say that when the heroism didn't occur only in the ghetto and in the rebellion, it occurred everywhere. Everyone that survived is a hero, actually. So in Israel, we have a siren sounded in the morning of Yom HaShoah, 10 in the morning, and everybody is standing. Can you let me have, please, Marla, the next slide? Okay, so these are pictures from I think the latest Yom HaShoah that so the traffic is stopping. Everybody's standing and giving the honor to the people that died in the Holocaust. And there are several ways. Sorry, Marla, next slide. Madeline?
Oh, thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah. You can see from the slide, how the holiday is conducted and honored in America. And I call to your attention, just FYI, the bottom photos are President Carter with Elie Wiesel. And then you have Carter with Vladka Mead, who was one of the partisans in Europe during the Holocaust. Her husband, Benjamin Mead, who has passed, was one of the major survivors up there with Wiesel. He wasn't a writer, but he was very much a speaker and a voice for the survivors in America. Okay. Anyway, Jews in America commemorate Yom HaShoah in a variety of different ways. Synagogues hold special services. You have Jewish communities offering local programs, survivor organizations, which, as I mentioned, there were several throughout the U.S., and Holocaust centers and museums offer events for the special day. And these programs will feature speeches from survivors. And when there are less and less of them, sometimes it will be children of survivors, right? The screening of films about the Holocaust, offering songs or poetry that have come from the Shoah, all right? And since 1979, as a result of the President's Commission on the Holocaust, which was established by then President Jimmy Carter, civic ceremonies have been held in Washington, D.C., and many congressmen and senators join in on that, okay? Many Jewish homes will light yahrzeit memorial candles, even those that have not lost a direct family member for the Holocaust. The Reform movement has, in fact, added to the liturgy with a Mishkan Tefillah, bringing social awareness into the religion and the religious services. Here in America, we have the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C., which is situated on the National Mall. It receives federal support and it stands as an official recognition and commemoration of the Holocaust. It's very hard to get on the National Mall, and it really is mainly government buildings that exist on that. Okay, there are also smaller Holocaust museums that have sprung up in recent years from major cities all across the country. We have one in New York City. They have Holocaust education centers affiliated with universities. There are survivor organizations to help support survivors and to record their experiences. I'm sure people are familiar with the Steven Spielberg USC Shoah Foundation. It's a visual archive filled with survivor testimonies, and they are ongoing. They continue. And U.S. schools have added to their curriculum, which includes the reading of Wiesel's Night, and also mention of the Holocaust in the World War II History Unit, which is taught in social studies classes. Also, many survivors go into schools and actually speak to students. All of this really adds to recognition in the Americas, both Canada and America, on acknowledging, okay, the Holocaust. Sharona, can you talk a little bit about how those survivors in Israel had their experiences?
Yes, well, in Israel, the television is showing only Yom HaShoah movies, and we have an official ceremony in Yad Vashem, lighting six torches for 6 million people that were died in the Holocaust. But I think that youth are going to Tzaadat HaChaim, which is the March of the Living in Auschwitz, walking towards the Auschwitz camp. But I think the main, in the last few years, that there is starting of another thing in Israel. The memorial is more private than official. For example, we have alternative ceremony, which is supposed to bring the Shoah closer to the young people. And there's a new project called Zikaron Basalon that people are inviting people from the Holocaust to their living room, and everybody sitting and hearing their story, which is very helpful for the young people to understand what happened there, and actually giving the survivors the chance to tell their story. There are a lot of other ways to commemorate the Shoah in Israel now, and not just the official ceremony. This is for how we do it in Israel. Can we, Marla?
Yes.
Can we go to the next slide, please? And we're also going to Ayala to tell us about Yom HaZikaron.
Very much, Sharona. Yom HaZikaron, Memorial Day, was officiated as a law in Israel in 1949, right after the establishment of the state. I want to talk a little bit about the various implications of Memorial Day, because it is different in Israel than it is in other countries. It's a very nationalistic day. The parliament, the Knesset, the government, the police, the army, the schools, all the state institutions respond to the day and have special ceremonies and special programs. And there's the whole environment, the whole social and cultural environment is imbued with memorial contents. Many families in Israel are part of the circle of mourning. It's not just a small minority. So obviously there are strong social implications. I just want to note that at a day like that, the question of who is in and who is out is a very important question. Do I feel part of this day, or am I outside of this day? And I'll just hint at this, but obviously the non-Jews, the Palestinian Israelis, are alienated naturally at this day, and so are most of the ultra-Orthodox communities because they don't serve in the army. Though I should say that in the past, I think since the 90s, Memorial Day also includes people who were killed in terror attacks. And that, of course, makes no distinction between Zionists and non-Zionist Israelis. I want to say something about the cultural implications. The importance of memory of the deceased, of the fallen soldiers, is so important in the Israeli culture that we have immense number of poetry, and poetry that was given music. Every year we have new songs that were written. The words usually were written by soldiers who were killed and then given to musicians to give, and became songs, and they are performed. We have evenings of singing aloud, singing together, and we have theater shows and books, and it's a very powerful and inspirational power in the Israeli culture. Lastly, I just want to say something about the commercial implications. I know that in the US, every holiday has positive commercial implications. In Israel, it's the other way around. On Memorial Day, on Yom HaZikaron, we have less commercial activity because restaurants, movie theaters are closed. You cannot have a public event that is not about Memorial Day. So there is less of a commercial activity, and there is very, very little, almost nothing, that is being produced to honor the day. And I think, you know, it's very Israeli in that sense. Marla, can you turn on the Minute of Silence video, please? So just like Yom HaShoah, but even stronger, we have two moments of silence. Actually, on the day itself, it's 2 minutes long. We'll see just a part of how I'm going there. As the time approaches, people and I want to say something about this very special way of connecting to the day. Usually, most of the ceremonies in the school and in the Knesset and elsewhere in the army are scheduled to begin with the siren. So everybody come ahead of time and prepare, and then people stand for the couple of minutes before and then. But these pictures were taken from the streets, and it's a little weird, but it's very powerful when it catches you when you're not ready, and suddenly you are pulled from your daily routine to something, to another dimension, the dimension of memory. And again, also here, of course, we have alternative ceremonies. I'm not going to get into it. It's very controversial because some people in Israel celebrate or commemorate Memorial Day, remembering death from both sides. And I think that should be enough. Sharona, would you like to add something about how we move from memorial and mourning to celebrating our independence?
Yes, thank you, Ayala. Separating Yom HaZikaron from Yom HaAtzmaut is a big thing in Israel. I remember that I had a visit from a friend. She came from Germany, and she was in Israel for the Yom HaZikaron. And she was standing with me on the street when the siren went on, and she said, "How do you do that? How do you go from a day of memorial to a day of celebration?" And actually, in Israel, it's a big thing because the thing is, it's very difficult. Not only for the families that are going in the morning to the cemeteries to do this cut and then celebrate the Independence Day of Israel. So it's a thing that the congregations, that the Reform congregations thought about, and what we are doing in the Reform congregations in Israel is we do Havdalah between Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut. What we are doing is we are taking a break. We are taking a big breath and going to Yom HaAtzmaut after a ceremony. Havdalah is like, you know the term, Havdalah is to separate between Shabbat and the rest of the week. It's the same, but we are taking a break. We are separating between Memorial and Yom HaAtzmaut. And Marla, can we have the next slide, please? Okay, so I'm asking Anis. Anis?
Oh, thank you. Marla, can you play the video, please?
This is the one.
Egypt? No. Soviet Union? Yes. United Kingdom? Abstain. The United States? Yes. Yugoslavia? Abstain.
Resolution of the Dutch Committee for Palestine was adopted by 33 votes, 13 against, 10 abstained.
So Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day, is celebrated not only in Israel, but in the United States and Canada. It's celebrated on the 5th of Iyar, which generally falls between late April or May. And it commemorates the founding of the modern state of Israel on the 5th of Iyar, 5708. And this is when the Declaration of Independence of the new Jewish state was proclaimed. The Knesset made this an official public holiday in 1949. Marla, next slide. Do we have a video? So this next video is then Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion reading part of the Declaration of Independence.
Wrong.
Wrong?
Me? I'm wrong.
Oh,
Not you.
okay.
1 second. Sorry. Ha.
של העם היהודי להיות ככל עם ועם עומד ברשות עצמו במדינתו הריבונית אשר תפתח לרווחה את שערי המולדת לכל יהודי ותעניק לעם היהודי מעמד של אומה שוות זכויות בתוך העמים. לפיכך נתכנסנו, אנו חברי מועצת העם, נציגי היישוב העברי והתנועה הציונית, ביום סיום המנדט הבריטי על ארץ ישראל. בתוקף זכותנו הטבעית וההיסטורית, ועל יסוד החלטת עצרת האומות המאוחדות, אנו מכריזים בזאת על הקמת מדינה יהודית בארץ ישראל, היא מדינת ישראל.
Thank you, Marla. So the Reform movement and Israel have had a special relationship. It didn't start out so positive, but in 1897, the Central Conference of American Rabbis, the CCAR, resolved that they totally disapproved of any attempt of the establishment of a Jewish state. And the Union of American Hebrew Congregations also agreed that the mission of Judaism was spiritual, not political. By 1937, the anti-Zionism stance had softened a little bit in the Reform movement to say that we affirm the obligation of all Jewry to aid in having a Jewish homeland. But by 1997, the Miami platform of the CCAR unequivocally supported Israel, a Hebrew language, and even encouragement of Aliyah, which brings us to today. However, there are still a few classical Reform synagogues that disapprove of a Jewish state. And also, the CCAR and other Reform movement organizations have a partnership with ARTSA, the Association of American Reform Zionists of America, and they work all together for the Reform movement in Israel. So those of you who are watching this webinar may be asking yourself, so how is Yom HaAtzmaut celebrated in the United States? Well, first, there are Jewish communities around the country who hold dinners, pizza dinners, Israeli food meals with singing, music, and dancing. There are Israel Fests where there's face painting and flag making activities to engage children. Some communities bring carnival rides and games to their festivals. And there are also benefit concerts which feature Israeli artists and the Israeli Defense Force musician ensembles. So if you ever have an opportunity to bring an IDF ensemble to your organization, I've seen them in concert and they are phenomenal. So how can you celebrate Yom HaAtzmaut in your community? You can start with a party to include a special meal, including pita, Israeli salads like hummus, hatzlilim, and lechina. You can also include olives and yogurt cheese, Israeli salad. You can have puff pastries filled with chicken or fish. So lots of food. You can also change your social media picture, which is what I do, to the Israeli flag. You could do a picture of Israel, an Israeli site that maybe you have visited or that you want to visit. If you have children, there are always activities, arts and crafts to engage both children and adults. And lastly, bring your clergy and your teachers and lay leaders in for sacred study or reflection, celebration, and connection. And there are many resources through the Reform movement, through WRJ in particular. There's a Jewish holiday study guide. And you can also visit reformjudaism.org for more information. So with that, Sharona, how is Yom HaAtzmaut celebrated in Israel?
Well, we just celebrated, so it's really fresh. So what we are doing in Israel, we have an official ceremony lighting 12 torches for 12 tribes of Israel. And besides the ceremony, we have fireworks all over the country. Of course, we are going outside for to see our beautiful country, and we are having in several congregations, including my own in my little one in Bat Yam, we read a special Haggadah for Yom Ha'atzmaut, in which we started a new custom to read to do some more for the Yom Ha'atzmaut. So in the Haggadah, it was there was the Havdalah ceremony that I was talking about, and also how Yom Ha'atzmaut, how the country was founded, some quotes from Herzl and from Benjamin Zev Herzl and Ben Gurion, and it was very enlightening. And songs, of course, Israeli songs, and I think that the most familiar national sports of the Israeli in Yom Ha'atzmaut, Marla, can I have the next slide? Is doing a barbecue. It's called mangal in Israel, mangal, and everybody's waving with a lot of meat and salads and celebrating the Independence Day of Israel.
This is Julia here. There's a request coming in. Somebody is asking about the fourth holiday that was listed at the beginning of our PowerPoint presentation. Ayala, can you explain what that fourth holiday is?
It's a much more minor holiday, much less observed. It's also a late one. In 1968, a year after the Six-Day War, a group of right-wing Zionists has had a demonstration calling for a special commemoration of the conquer of the east part of Jerusalem. But it took 30 years until it became a law, again, coming from the same side of the political arena. Over the years, it has developed into a highly political event. Marla, let's take a look at the next slide for a minute. I won't talk much about it, but you can see a slide from the March of Flags in East Jerusalem, which has become a very conflicted and political event. Let's go up to the previous slide, please, Marla, because I want to suggest another way of remembering Jerusalem. A few years ago, it has become the official day of Memorial Day for the Ethiopian Jews who have lost, so many of them, some 4,000 people have died, perished on their journeys from Ethiopia through Sudan to Israel. Mostly during the 1980s, Ethiopian Jews have made their journey to Israel. It was secret, and then I'm not going to get into the history, but it was very difficult. So because Ethiopian Jews used to remember Zion as Jerusalem, they called it Jerusalem, and they had talked about Jerusalem, it was very appropriate that it became a law that it's a combination. We combined this memorial, this sad memory with Yom Yerushalayim. So, for example, in my congregation, we took the time to listen to testimonies and personal stories, to watch documentaries about the journey of Ethiopian Jews to Israel. And I think that should be enough about this subject.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the participants on our panel. I'd like to thank Rabbi Ayala Samuels, Sharona Butnaro, Madeline Rosen, and our leaders, Marla Goldberg and Julia Weinstein. And so now I'd like, Julia, I think I saw some questions in the chat box.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Anise. First, I'd like to report that we have had on this call today 12 United States participants, 5 Israeli participants, and 1 Canadian participant. Welcome, Sarah Charney. Anyway, we do have a few questions. The first from Smadar, and she asks, do most American Jewish communities mark both International and Israeli Holocaust Remembrance Day? And I'm wondering if maybe Madeline would like to answer that question.
Yeah, that's actually an excellent question. No, most Jewish communities, in fact, I'd say almost all, just honor Yom HaShoah. And it's interesting that in general, the UN holiday, which is in January, usually is celebrated by United Nations, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and probably a lot in Europe, but not so much in America.
Madeline, 1 second, please. It's Marla. Excuse me for interrupting. Go ahead. Thank you.
Oh, was I muted the whole time, or?
No, just a minute, just a second ago when I said hold.
Yeah, no, just in general, it's more UN, Europe, and a lot of Christian organizations that honor the UN Day. And maybe that was Israel's intention, to kind of separate one, from Jewish to non-Jewish. I don't know. That's it, yeah. Marla?
I'm here. But
that's the end of that question.
Okay.
Answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There's one more question from Smadar, and she notes that there is a group called Zikaron Basalon that she says is outside of Israel, and she gives a link to an organization. I'm not sure if any of our panelists are familiar with that. Is anybody familiar with that? No.
Has spoken about it.
I was talking about the Zikaron Basalon in Israel, but I wasn't aware that there's a group also outside of Israel.
I see. Well, I did go on the website very briefly, and it looks like it's not necessarily only for Israel, and they have a program that anyone, it looks like, can participate. So perhaps that's something that we can look into, as you explained, Sharona, the wonderful intimacy of your evenings maybe can be shared by United States or other international people who want to celebrate in that same intimate way. So the link is in our chat box, and it's www.zikaronbasalon.org, and they do have materials and can help you organize your own salon to do your own remembrance. So thank you, Smadar. Are there any other questions? I'm not seeing other questions coming in here. Oh, Smadar, would you like to explain more? That would be lovely. Marla, can you unmute Smadar?
Done. Smadar, you're ready. You're available.
We would love to hear from you, Smadar, if you know more information about that organization.
I can't hear her.
Oh, maybe she's muted herself.
I see your lips moving, Smadar, but I don't hear you.
Oh, your mic is not working. Maybe we didn't test it out. Perhaps you can chat with us and we can post. When we post this, we can post your comments because we can't hear you. Okay. Or if you write them, I will state them. I will read them. Are there any other questions in the meanwhile? No. Well, this is has been a
Excuse me, Julia.
Yes.
Minute. We have somebody who wants to speak. This may come as a surprise.
Great.
I'm unmuting Risa.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Is my mic?
You're in and out, Risa.
Can you hear me? You
Yes,
can.
we can hear you now.
Okay. I would like to thank the participants in this panel, not only for their words, but also for the incredible collection of historic videos. And I am hoping that although this is the first time we've done this and we don't have 200 people, however, those of you who are watching, remember that it's going to be recorded. And I think this would be an amazing, amazing discussion within your religious school classes and within perhaps your board meetings with your sisterhood. Older people like me will probably remember some of these videos, but most people, and certainly all of our children, may not have seen them. And even if you don't want to do the whole thing in a classroom setting, you can certainly get the recording and show all of these very important historical videos. And we took an idea here from this committee and made it a reality. And it's a first try, and I think you'll see us again. Thanks for joining.
I will just add my words of thank you to everybody who did work so hard. And I think it's another exemplary example of how when we put our minds to something that we are stronger together, and clearly came up with something that is bigger than all of us. I hope that most people found this helpful and interesting and will consider different ways to use it. You may want to just bring this to your sisterhood when it comes this time of year, or your women's group. I'm sure there's other applications I'm not thinking of. And thank you to Julia for being behind the scenes with me. And mostly to the panelists who did the hard work and hard lifting. Thank you. If there's any other questions, we're looking in the chat box, but so far there are none. I'm going to unmute everybody and I'm going to go full screen so we can end sort of the way we started with everybody seeing who's on here, which I think is very exciting. And I feel like romper room for those of us who knew. I see these people I know. And thank you for everybody for supporting us on making this happen. And a great committee that this came out of organically happened. So
Thank you, Marla. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a lovely day. And we'll post this on Yammer as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Deetra.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.